Welcome to the Blockbusters and Birdwalks podcast. I am the curator, Garrett Chaffin-Quiray. Today we have a conversation with a friend, Ed Rosa.
That's me. Hi. My filmmaking partner and I have a YouTube channel, Toothless Richard Productions, where you can see a number of our short films.
No Country for Old Men is the story of three men, one of whom, Llewellyn Moss, played by Josh Brolin, stumbles into the payout of a drug deal gone wrong. An enforcer from that group of criminals is sent after the money, Anton Chigurh, played by Javier Bardem, and as the bodies pile up, Sheriff Ed Tom Bell, that's Tommy Lee Jones, tries to figure out what's happening, and in the end a lot of bad stuff goes on.
You can't stop what's coming.
When I first saw this movie, I thought it was awful. Just the ending so spoiled my reaction to it. I could not believe I'd given it 2 hours of my life.
Yeah, I think this has got to be one of the most potentially polarizing conclusions to a film ever.
It's important to note that I've seen it now 5 times, because every time I see it, my regard for it improves, and my sense of its thematic purposes deepen, and my belief that it is really excellent art only becomes more intense. That experience of finding your original opinion of something switched over across memory, that's atypical. But this is a movie I was glad to rewatch with you because, again, 5th time out, dug it even more than the 4th time out, more than the 3rd, because the first time out, I was so spoiler. What is it that I'm referring to in the ending? Well, the movie has a pair of wraparound voiceovers. In the first case, it's Sheriff Ed Tom Bell explaining the landscape of West Texas, and he's worried about how evil is creeping up into the world and whether he can keep up.
You can't help but compare yourself against the old-timers. Can't help but wonder how they'd operated these times. There's this boy I sent to the electric chair at Huntsville here a while back. My arrest and my testimony. He killed a 14-year-old girl. Papers said it was a crime of passion, but he told me there wasn't any passion to it. Told me that he'd been planning to kill somebody for about as long as he could remember. Said if they turned him out, he'd do it again. Said he knew he was going to hell. Be there in about 15 minutes. I don't know what to make of that.
When the movie ends, he's since retired from being a sheriff. He delivers a monologue to the camera, which is a stand-in for his wife.
How'd you sleep?
I don't know. Had dreams.
Well, you got time for 'em now. Anything interesting?
There always is to the party concerned.
Ed Tom, I'll be polite.
All right, then. 2 of them. Both had my father in them. It's peculiar. I'm older now than he ever was by 20 years. So, in a sense, he's the younger man. Anyway, the first one I don't remember too well, but it was about meeting him in town somewhere, and he gave me some money. I think I lost it. The second one, it was like we was both back in the older times, and I was a horseback, going through the mountains of the night, going through this pass in the mountains. It was cold, and there was snow on the ground. He rode past me and kept on going, never said nothing going by, just rode on past. He had his blanket wrapped around him, his head down. When he rode past, I seen he was carrying fire in a horn, the way people used to do, and I could see the horn from the light inside of it, about the color of the moon. And in the dream, I knew that he was going on ahead. And he's fixing to make a fire somewhere out there in all that dark and all that cold. I knew that whenever I got there, he'd be there. Then I woke up.
It's so abrupt, and it goes immediately to credits.
Yeah.
Joel and Ethan Coen.
Yeah.
And you think, you dicks.
Yeah. But obviously, as we're, a good many years removed from its release, watching it, I was like, I think there's something with the end it wasn't going to tie itself up the way we've all kind of been trained
That's right.
to expect it to.
The way we've been trained. So I think that's its note of excellence,
Yeah.
because it helped me untrain a part of my expectations. In other words, I'm starting to see the world from the perspective of Sheriff Ed Tom Bell.
Right.
When I first saw the movie, I was more in the perspective of Llewellyn Moss,
Mm-hmm.
trying to sort of negotiate my crafty way through a world's set of problems. And he has this interesting opportunity where he finds this suitcase of $2 million cash with a bunch of dead men and presumes he can just escape with it, take he and his wife to an entirely different kind of a life. That's a mental exercise I have all the time. I'm walking the dog. What would I do if there were $1 million satchel over in the ditch? That always is on my mind. So this movie actuates that. But it does it with a really intense study of manhood and of change, of modernity overwhelming traditional systems, which I credit to the source novelist, and that's Cormac McCarthy's novel, which I recommend to you if you're a reader. It's something to pull off the shelf. I did it out of order, saw the movie, then read the book, then saw the movie again, and thought, I'm getting a better picture here.
Yeah, I do that a lot. I think I've done that with like every Kubrick film.
And what is impressive to me about the source novel here, No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy, and the way the Coen brothers translate that text into a screenplay and then deliver it through directing and editing and then producing the resulting movie, is it stays very much on behavior defines character. These are people who don't enjoy talking. There's very little dialogue across 2 hours of length, and when we do hear the dialogue, it's with this really poetic style of speech.
I've really come to appreciate that. Different dialects, different, like, whereas we call them sodas here, like in another part of the country they call them pop, another part of the country they call them cokes.
Yeah.
That regional flavor really helps to inform something.
And in their own ways, all three of our principal male performers in this movie comment to others around them that you talk too much.
Mm-hmm.
And so we instead watch what they do, which helps us understand the depth of what and who they are. So just as one simple example, we meet Sheriff Ed Tom Bell bringing his horses into his trailer because he has to use the horses to go back country and investigate this terrible crime that has happened where the money's gone missing and finding all of these dead bodies. We learn through his animal husbandry, he knows how to yoke something to his will without meanness. And that's right out of McCarthy. And I think the Coen brothers do a great credit to that source, and in their own way of Deakins, Roger Deakins as their DP, is really a gift to their whole production, making everything look so wonderful.
Absolutely.
So the cutaway details we get on close-up of certain key features. Anton Chigurh takes off his boots and peels off his socks. These are just goofy things you don't have to have a character do, but that the character does them and doesn't comment and notice, nor does anybody else. It's a silent movie trope that works really well in this thing.
You also mentioned the dialogue and the sparsity of it. Thinking about, I think I'd like to read the script because I was wondering if like the script was like shorter because
than a conventional movie,
right? Because you can only do so much with screen direction, and you have to leave a lot of it up to the performers and the director and how the scene plays out, and you can't put in like lines like for silence, you know what I mean? The other thing is the sparsity of the dialogue gives the dialogue that there is more impact. It's as if they understand, like, a lot of movies are just a lot of noise. Because you get the sense that Llewellyn, he's a man of few words, but that when he speaks, they're chosen very precisely.
Well, a good example that I just love the scene, when he goes to shop for boots, he's lost his because of stuff, and he goes into a clothing shop.
Can I help you?
Yeah, you got a pair of Larry Mann's, shoulder size 11?
I'll check.
You also socks?
Just white.
Well, that's all I wear.
It's a great little nod to those character-specific details that just makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I was thinking about the part where he's like, another part with Llewellyn, where he's, he wants to buy the tent poles.
You already have the tent? Well, something like that. Well, you give me the model number on the tent, I can order you the poles.
Never mind, I want a tent.
Well, what kind of tent?
Kind with most poles.
They also have a very subtle and dark sense of humor.
Yeah.
It's just remarkable.
Well, let me give you an example that comes to mind as you're speaking. Llewellyn, deep into the movie, he's been terribly injured and he's crossed over into Mexico to receive medical care. He's left. He's trying to come back stateside, and he's dressed in a hospital gown, his Western boots.
Right.
Very tellingly, it's restricted, though, the view of him that we see because it's from the border attendant's point of view, who's a kind of a crackery dude.
Tell me something. Who do you think gets through this gate in the United States of America?
I don't know. American citizens?
Some American citizens. Who do you think decides?
You do, I reckon.
That is correct. How do I decide?
I don't know.
I ask questions. And if I get sensible answers, then they get to go to America. And if I don't get sensible answers, they don't. Anything about that you don't understand?
No, sir.
Then I ask you again, how you come to be out here with no clothes?
I got an overcoat on.
Are you jacking with me?
Oh, no, sir.
Don't jack with me.
Yes, sir.
You in the service?
No, sir, I'm a veteran.
Now?
Yes, sir, 2 tours.
What outfit?
12th Infantry Battalion, August 7th, 1966, July 2nd, 1968.
Wilson,
Yes, sir.
get someone to help this man. He needs to get into town.
Then we cut to a long shot where we actually see what Llewellyn looks like. We see what a clown show it is, because he is in a hospital gown, wearing his Western boots, yeah. He walks into the store, same clerk from before. The clerk doesn't bat an eye and says,
How those Larrys holding up?
Good. Need everything else.
Okay.
now those two scenes are put together in the same sequence to reintroduce the back portion of Llewellyn's adventure.
Yeah. Well, there's even a line later on between Tommy Lee Jones and one of the other characters where they're talking about the flippance of youth or whatever. And there's a line where he says something like, "Oh, when sir and ma'am are gone," terms of respect for seniority. Yeah. But Brolin, he's doing it.
Yeah.
You know, he's, yes, sir, yes,
he
sir,
knows
no,
when
sir.
to knuckle under, right?
Right,
he respects authority.
Well, and then, too, it's just kind of funny to me that, like, they're having Tommy Lee Jones, this guy, having this conversation about this, and we're watching symbolically, you know, the death of this kind of era.
That's right.
Where, you know...
It's a very poignant scene, because Tommy Lee has not been able to save, spoiler, Llewellyn is killed. Ed Tom Bell could not save him. He's reconciled that failure. He's already spoken to the widow. And there's this, it's at night, they're at a diner, they've had coffee together. These two men are unlikely to ever see each other again, and they know it. That middle-aged collapse. The world that I knew has ended, and I am overmatched. That's a word he uses a few times in the movie. I'm worried about being overmatched. Yeah. And he is. He is overmatched.
That happens to everybody.
Right, that's right.
It's a generational thing. It's happening to me right now.
That's right.
There's a great one of the probably my favorite Simpsons quote of all times is in this episode where it's like a flashback and Homer is a teenager and he's talking to Grandpa, his dad, and he's like, "Oh, Dad, like you're just not with it," and he has this wonderful line about like I used to be with it. But then they changed what it was. And now what is it is strange and scary to me. And it'll happen to you.
Well, that is a great quote, because you're right. I'm living through it, too.
Yeah.
With aging children that are making me feel old, with habits that aren't working in the workplace, with goals that are out of sync with what I think I'm capable of, with a lack of energy around things. The inability to identify people in magazines when I'm at the checkout stand at the grocery store. Who are all of these people? When once that was what I understood.
Yeah. In the areas in which I really pay attention to, I feel I'm still pretty astute and still pretty informed.
But you could generally be aware of a lot more 20 years ago than now.
Absolutely. Well, and the stuff that interests me is becoming more and more out of step with what is generally interesting to most people, especially the younger you get.
Which is, again, when we talk about the Coen brothers, the brilliance of how they structure stories, there's a lot of parallelism in this movie that I think we can come back to. But since we're on the track of these older men talking about how they're overmatched by the change of tide, the change of time, one of the penultimate sequences, which is kind of an odd thing stuffed into the movie, it's when Ed Tom Bell goes to visit his uncle Ellis, who's been injured on the job, lives in isolation, is wheelchair-bound, and they have a conversation where the uncle explains, Ellis is his name, Ellis explains, "I got a letter from your wife that you're quitting." And he's trying to upbraid the younger man, Ed Tom Bell, who is weary, world weary. "Yeah, I'm done, I think. This is too much." And so his uncle tells the story about their uncle, this man 100 years ago, say, who had been shot by some native men who were angry with him for something he had done in Texas, and how it's pride of yours to think you matter so much. This has been going on a long time.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with you. And that's something that I've been reflecting on a lot lately, that I've spent most of my decades so far being very, very egocentric. And I'm beginning to learn to let the stirrups set loose from that a bit, because I really don't matter all that much.
Right.
And to the degree I can accept that and not be upset, it's just a truth.
But it's so hard to divorce yourself from that.
particularly as we come into adulthood, which we see Llewellyn working his way through. He has ambitions about the life he wants he and his wife to live. He's a welder, and she works at Walmart. They live in a really ugly, beat-up old trailer in a mobile home park. He wants more. This $2 million he finds offers him a lot more. That's something like $8 or $10 million as we sit here today. It's a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Virtually everything you can imagine for a lower middle-class person can come true on that. And he's got the gumption to think, yeah, I can just steal this. Bell knows it doesn't really matter, because what you don't understand is what you got coming, and that's Chigurh. So he becomes a metaphor. All of these characters, I think, are symbolic of something else, but I think Chigurh is a metaphor for the force of an amoral evil. He has this coded idea of flipping coins, this game he plays with his prey.
Right, or his I wouldn't be keeping my word thing where like, he doesn't kill the wife.
But you're keeping the word with yourself. It really... What are you talking about? You're inventing the rules.
Yeah, this bizarre moral code that he's completely married to.
That's right, and can't even see that he invented it. Nobody applied this to him, because there is no force in this story world greater than he is. He survives everything. He's shot and self-repairs through robbing a pharmacy and notably doing personal surgery.
Yeah, he's like the Terminator.
He kind of is. Which means to say that as we think of the character of Chigurh, he's not fleshed out particularly in the McCarthy. There's references to his sort of special ops services in Vietnam, which we also get from the character Woody Harrelson plays in this thing, Wells, who's there mostly to sort of bring in the money as well and shut down the violence. He knew Chigurh when they were in country together. Then he has a very glowing respect for the violence of the man, that he's a psychotic with his own kind of unusual code of ethics. All of that's true. But in this story world, he also appears to be somewhere in the autism spectrum. He gets really fixed on certain objects. He's not persuadable. He's completely affectless and flat. He's not motivated by bringing back the money. He does seem to like the hunting, and I suppose that then is a master theme of this movie. It's certainly part of McCarthy's worldview, and that is predator-prey relationships.
Yeah.
Would you hold still, please, sir?
And of course, we really shouldn't ignore the fact that he's got a choice weapon, and that's this air-power hammer, a killing tool for a butcher's floor. It punches a spike into the head of an animal, and it immediately retracts it, killing it, you presume, instantly.
Yeah, I think they use it to kill cattle.
And then he uses it also to blow out doorknobs when he wants to enter a place. So you were talking about how he's this interesting force to enjoy hanging out with. I mean, certainly he doesn't need to be invited to my birthday party.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of the scene when he figures out who Llewellyn Moss is, that it's likely he's the person with the money, and he begins trailing him, finds his address, and goes to his mobile home, punches out the doorknob, opens the trailer, realizes nobody is there, and just makes himself at home.
Yeah.
Goes through the mail, discovers a lot of phone calls to Odessa, Texas.
Yeah.
We later learn that's where Llewellyn's mother-in-law lives, so that's important for the way the thing concludes.
Takes the milk out of the fridge, has a nice
has
drink
a
of milk.
swig.
Milk, it does a trail of bodies good.
Whose story is No Country for Old Men all about?
It's a little subversive in this way, but I think by the time it wraps up, I kind of feel like it's Tommy Lee Jones, like it's the sheriff. Llewellyn is youth, and Anton Chigurh is time. Sheriff Bell, he's watching it play out in kind of the same way that he's sort of reflecting on his life. He's realizing he's seeing more in the rearview mirror than he is seeing in, out of the windshield, and he's watching it physically play out microcosmically between like Llewellyn and Chigurh.
I like that a lot. Yeah, time checks all youth. That's what this movie is about.
Right.
And then there's randomness that steps into it that we can't control for, because everybody's making choices all of the time.
Right. Life is, and Barry Lyndon made me realize this, life is 50% the decisions you make and 50% the decisions other people make.
Well, Sheriff Bell has this really goofy story that lands in the middle of the movie when he confronts Llewellyn's wife, Carla Jean.
You know how they used to slaughter bees, hit them right there with a maul, truss them up, slit their throats? Here old Charlie's got one all trussed up, all set to drain him, and the beef comes to, starts thrashing around. 600 pounds of very pissed-off livestock. You'll excuse me. Well, Charlie grabs his gun there, shoots the damn thing in the head, but with all the swinging and the thrashing, it's a glance shot. Ricochets around, comes back, hits Charlie in the shoulder. You go see Charlie, he still can't pick up his right hand for his hat. The point being that even in the contest between man and steer, the issue is not certain.
Would we describe this as an action film? I mean, there's plenty of action in it, but we're not. They're not showing us the things that we've come to expect that we are going to see. I couldn't help but think of Hitchcock. First off, when Llewellyn is just instantaneously snatched away from us, it reminded me a lot of Psycho. You're following Janet Leigh. She's stolen this money, and she's trying to get away with it, and then halfway through the film, our protagonist is gone. Whoa. It's so disorienting. Thinking about that also had me sort of reflecting on how wonderfully suspenseful some of the moments in this film are. They execute it so magnificently.
Yeah.
The Coen brothers. Just they're so like meticulous. I didn't actively realize it during the film, but then reading a bunch of stuff afterwards, there is no music in this movie. Frequently, I get upset with films. I mean, music and film to me is like a marriage made in heaven, right?
Yeah.
Like you put the right.
It's why you go to the show,
right? You put the right song by the right artist, or you get the right person to score the scene, and it can really heighten things and really make things amazing. But at the same time, I also will get upset when films are beating us over the head with music.
And they do credit a score to Carter Burwell, who I think has been a long-time collaborator.
Yeah, he's their normal guy, I think.
And I feel like, I mean, there are notes of music, but it's just so sparingly used.
Yeah, I don't even remember where there was any.
And consequently, the sound that is emphasized becomes all the more poignant. Perhaps the most chilling sequence in the movie that's often referred to is the one where Anton is at a convenience store in Texas getting a fill-up of his gas tank.
From Sweet Dave.
And he's eating a peanut snack of some sort, and he asks just some idling questions, but this clerk just doesn't recognize that he's in the face of menace.
Call it.
Call it, yes. For what?
Just call it.
Well, we need to know what we're calling it for here.
You need to call it. I can't call it for you. Well, it wouldn't be fair.
I didn't put nothing up.
Yes, you did. You've been putting it up your whole life. You just didn't know it. You know what date is on this coin?
No.
1958. It's been traveling 22 years to get here. And now it's here. And it's either heads or tails. And you have to say, call it.
Well, look, I need to know what I stand to win.
Everything.
How's that?
You stand to win everything, call it.
All right. Heads, then.
Well done. Don't put it in your pocket.
Sir?
Don't put it in your pocket. It's your lucky quarter.
Where do you want me to put it?
Anywhere not in your pocket. Or it'll get mixed in with the others and become just a coin.
Through that whole sequence, he's chewing the peanuts while he's making this convenience store clerk more and more nervous.
It was so great.
And then finally just leaves the wrapper on the counter where we hear it uncrinkle. We are in the age of superhero movies, and this movie directly precedes it. I know that we can talk about the Dark Knight trilogy, and there's a place for that, but I think really what we're talking about is Iron Man, introducing the MCU.
Yeah, really, that was kind of the tipping point, or the sort of, that was
the inflection point of the modern industry,
right,
turning it
totally.
into these franchise entertainments based on heavily pedigreed
right.
stuff that's aimed at 12-year-olds.
Well, and I was right there eating it up, because let's face it, that first Iron Man film was very good.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it's not No Country for Old Men good,
but it came out of the gates.
Right.
And it was being shot at the same time this movie was being released. So there is a timing to this. While there is, I think, always a place for a mature story for a mature audience, it did feel like this movie was able to make several kinds of crossovers because it does feature some of those terrible, violent moments that I have to tell you, when I'm watching this on cable and flipping channels after the kids have gone to sleep, man, I pause over something like, wow, that's just so vicious. Yeah. And then I just go to bed because I'm that kind of cold dude. There's a space for that. There always has been. But it's not the thing that most people turn out for, and it wasn't what most people turned out for in the season this movie was released. I'm fascinated with the fall of 2007 because it featured several other favorites of mine.
Yeah, that's a crazy time for me, too. It was where I had my most lucrative job ever and my least favorite job ever. The one I was the most miserable at.
Right. In this season that No Country for Old Men shows up, dating back to September of 2007, The Kingdom by Peter Berg competes with 3:10 to Yuma, the remake by James Mangold, which shows up against Eastern Promises by David Cronenberg. And that's September. And each of those movies, to my entertainment value, is crackerjack, good adult fun. In October, we get Michael Clayton by Tony Gilroy, which is
awesome.
It's totally
so
marvelous.
good.
It really is. We get Blade Runner, The Final Cut by Ridley Scott, which tells us definitively that he's a replicant. We get Lake of Fire, Tony Kaye's abortion documentary, which runs to 2.5 hours of length. Lars and the Real Girl, Gone Baby Gone, Ben Affleck's debut as a movie director, and Dan in Real Life. Again, all of those movies are great. In November, after No Country for Old Men is opening, we get American Gangster by Ridley Scott, Beowulf, which is perhaps the last time Robert Zemeckis did something that was good.
Right.
But it's weird because it's such a digital
Yeah,
body capture
it is a
thing.
little weird.
And then The Savages, another story about aging, what it is that children do with their aging parents. Then in December, we get Atonement, Charlie Wilson's War, The Great Debaters, and There Will Be Blood. Mm-hmm. And we should also note that No Country for Old Men was in release, earning money, I think, for 6 months.
Case in point, there's a show on right now on the CW 1982, The Greatest Geek Year Ever, which is made by the guys, people that I'm a fan of, Mark Altman and Robert Meyer Burnett and stuff, Darren Doctorman. And they're examining, because if you look at the release schedule and all the stuff that came out in '82,
oh, it's a big year.
It really and it only becomes more important as time goes on. And it was like at one point they're talking about E.T. and like I remember E.T. was in theaters for like a year.
Yeah.
But today they are just, with a couple of exceptions, like Top Gun played for a long time, they are in and out of theaters in a flash.
Which, to wrap it up in a bow for how I like to present things, I think it's tremendous that the Coens bumped into this property when they were entering their deep middle age. And though the movie came out before I got there, that I'm now arriving at the spot they were.
Ain't all waiting on you. That's vanity.
This is Blockbusters and Birdwalks, a conversation between Garrett Chaffin-Quiray and
Ed Rosa.
Boop boopity doo.